Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the, I guess we'll call it a meeting, our meeting, a budget meeting. And I know we all look really happy on that thing, but don't confuse that. This is a budget work session, so. This is a meeting of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We're also sitting as all special taxing districts, and this is a special budget session. The date is May 13th, and it's 9 a.m. So we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Supervisor McLeod would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll begin with a briefing by the budget review team before anything else, and so we're going to get sort of a summary of what's coming up.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The budget review team with me today includes Tony Struck, our Director of Office of Management and Budget, Gil Villegas, our Chief Financial Officer, Lucia Gomez, our Budget Manager, and our new budget analysts. This is their first budget presentation. Would be Jenny Untersay and Jessica Power.
There you go.
Glad to have the team here. So I'm going to start out with a brief recap with a short PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, went up.
The second one. So, no.
I can see what your priorities are, but.
Yes. Okay. All right. So as we know, the next 2 days are a budget special session for the board to hear from all the departments, agencies, and outside parties that are funded by Yuma County. After the presentations, the staff would take any board direction on any changes that you'd like to make from the recommended budget to the tentative budget, which will be presented on June 3rd. So today's agenda will include my recap of the recommended budget, including compensation and benefits, and you'll have presentations by the departments and agencies regarding their portion of the budget. We'll have a review of the long-range forecast for the library district fund balance. As you know, that fund balance continues to decline and it will soon need to be stabilized. And through the long-range forecasting tool, the board will be able to look at the effect of various scenarios on the fund balance as it relates to the adopted fund balance policy. Then we'll ask for the board's discussion, and CFO Gil Villegas will have this interactive spreadsheet available to identify the impact of any options you might want to consider as changes from the recommended to the tentative budget. So as the county identified a number of goals going into the 2020 budget process. We take a baseline approach, which means that we look at every expenditure from the ground up to determine the necessity of that expenditure and the appropriate funding level. Our top priorities this year are to fund a wage adjustment for all employees, minimize health insurance increases, and continue to address critical personnel, equipment, and capital needs that have been building over time. We also work to ensure the stability of all funds. Due to the efforts of staff and the County Employees Benefit Trust Board, health insurance premiums are only going to increase very slightly. Also, there's a 1.5% contribution shift from 35% to 37.5% for the employee share of dependent premiums. I'm also pleased to announce that the compensation adjustment included in the recommended budget includes an adjustment for public safety as well as all other employees. The City of Yuma has announced large increases in public safety salaries for police officer ranks as of July 1. In order to remain competitive, we're recommending a 6.8% increase for deputies and a 3% increase for senior deputies, as well as another 1% on their anniversary date, if they've been an employee for at least 12 months and are not on a performance improvement plan. And increases included for all other pay plans, with the exception of housing due to lack of HUD funding, of 2% on July 1 and another 1% increase on their anniversary date with the same criteria. In addition, adjustments to align positions with steps in pay plans and to meet minimum wage requirements are included in the recommended budget. And the budget team continues to make improvements, in particular in the general fund, to enhance the transparency of our budget process. So the challenges that we faced, as mentioned earlier, is that we continue to bear the burden of state shifts of funding responsibility. The good news thus far is that the legislature appears to be trying to reduce and or remove some of those obligations, but those have not been settled yet, so we await the final budget to understand what the impact might be on the county. There are other funds that remain uncertain in the long term, such as the federal payment in lieu of taxes from the federal government. That looks like it's going to be funded, but again, it's a year-by-year process, and it's very difficult to plan for. Various fee-based and special revenue funds are subject to fluctuations in revenue, which means we need to carefully review all expenses charged to those funds. Due to the favorable fund balance created by department underspending and better than anticipated revenues, we're also able to cash fund over $1.5 million in capital improvements. This is the second year of a 3-year program to set aside funds for a fleet replacement fund, which will begin in fiscal year 2021. And the board adopted a policy to ensure prudent fund balances for the county's major funds, and this budget reflects that policy. So the overall picture for all funds is shown on this chart, and it shows that, as you can see, all funds are budgeted to increase by a net of slightly less than 3.5%. Recommended staffing includes a net of 6 positions. During the budget process, the budget review team carefully scrutinized all requests for new positions. So the 2020 recommended budget includes a net increase of 6 positions from all funds in comparison to the current year's amended budget. The net is comprised of the 7 positions that you have a handout for, as well as a reduction of 1 position in special revenue funds. So we presented the original budget, recommended budget last Monday, and today and tomorrow you'll have presentations from all departments, agencies, and outside parties. Then we'll review the long-range forecast for the library district fund balance, and the board will have discussion today and tomorrow to give us guidance for the tentative budget. And that concludes my presentation. So up first we have a presentation by GYEDC.
Wait a minute, wait. You go on.
Okay, yes.
You finished, then I
Oh,
take over. I gotta
okay.
explain something
Okay.
before we begin.
Sure.
This is the portion where, every agency, I would call it, every agency or every program comes up in front of the board. I just want to remind everybody that what we like to see is people that are happy. So if you're happy with your recommendation, remember the big rule, right? If you're ahead, you quit. So be careful what you ask for after that. So we're going to have everybody come up individually, one at a time. And, I'm going to ask the critical question of whether you're happy with your budget. If you respond yes, then be careful if you tread any further than that. But if you're not happy, then we'll hear you and try to do it best we can. Okay, so the first one up is, you have a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Susan, this shows 10 positions, the handout.
That's right.
There are, the computer support specialist is divided in half, so that's a half and a half.
Oh.
It's paid for by the elections and recorders, so that's actually 1 position.
Okay,
It's just showing the half and a half.
okay.
So what you're saying is that the total would be 6, but
No, it's still 9.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, Supervisor McLeod. It does show 9 total positions that were requested. 2 are in special revenue and 7 are in general fund.
so
It's a total of 9.
So the general fund is the 7. So
Yeah.
I presented
7 new and then 1 reduction, 6 total.
And then the other ones are special fund.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
Yes.
That's good clarification, thank you.
Any other questions before we begin?
No, that was- thank
All
you.
right, then, YEDC, you're up first. You're gonna set the tone, remember that.
Good morning, Julie Engel, representing Greater Yuma Economic Development Corporation. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here, and I'm very happy. Very happy.
Thank you, and next time, for the next one, you will then, we'll have the staff, speak a little bit about it, and before we have someone come up. So I forgot that part, but if you're happy, we're happy.
I'm happy.
All right.
I'm very happy.
We are at the per capita numbers.
We are today, well, going forward,
July 1
and
we
yes,
will be.
July 1, we will be at the per capita, and the stabilization of our funding is what we're most happy about. So thank you.
Good. Right, thank you.
All right.
Any questions? No? Thank you very much. No, I
Okay,
just
thank
think, and this is where you tell us what page it's in, that kind of stuff, okay? Thank you.
Next, we have Crossroads Missions. Susan Jurgensen is available for any questions. Line items are on page 2, non-departmental, object account 43191.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm happy to be here, and we are reasonably happy with what we're getting. We have budget issues always, but we are very happy with what we can get from you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming up. We appreciate the work you do.
Next, we have Cooperative Extension. Russ Engel is available for any questions. Department pages are on page 135, and line items are page 2, non-departmental, object account 43110.
When you say page 2,
Where's non-departmental? We don't have that tab.
it's on page 135, but when you say
It would be
page
part
2,
of your line items. They were sent electronically.
It begins on 135. We get that.
Okay, normally there's a tab.
Right. We're getting this thing worked out. So it's page 135, which all the non-departmental are. And when you say page 2, what do you mean again?
The line items, those were sent out electronically to you guys.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, got
We
it.
have the book.
Well, I have the book, but I think, are you talking about the flash drive that was given to us?
Yes. So we
Okay.
have the department pages are on your budget book.
Yeah, it's here. Yes.
That's 135, yes.
That's right. We get that. And the page 2 is on the flash drive?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're up.
Bruce Gwynn, board member, Yuma County.
See, you
Yuma
brought the
County
crew, huh?
Cooperative Ex-
You
Bruce,
brought the support team.
what's
Yes,
that?
you
Yeah,
did.
we've been watching. You brought the support team.
Okay.
Can you, Mr. Chairman and Bruce, would you introduce our ambassadors?
What's
So
that?
he's got to introduce himself, and then we need your social
My name is
security
Bruce
number and
Gwynn.
checking account.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Board member, Yuma County Cooperative Extension. I'm just as happy as you all are today. Maybe a little bit happier. I want to introduce our new director for a little less than 1 year. Russ Engel comes to us from the Game and Fish Department after 23 years. He oversees cooperative extension for Yuma County, which includes general administration, 4-H, ag education, First Smiles, urban horticulture, master gardener, plant pathology, family consumer health sciences, and most importantly, the cooperative extension with Yuma Agriculture, our biggest industry. With that, I'd like to introduce Mr. Russ Engel.
Oh, Russ.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Russ Engel, and I've been here about 10 months. I think I started February. So, and I'm assuming, I haven't seen our figures yet, but I'm assuming it's similar to last year's. So, and with that, we're happy. So we'll follow the trend. But I just wanted to say, I emailed out a kind of a bulleted highlights of what we accomplished in 2018. If you all didn't get that or want a hard copy, I have a few extras. But I just, putting these numbers together, I was pretty impressed with what we've accomplished in the last year or the last 10 months that I've been here. I'm just going to touch on some highlights of that, and then I'm going to let our ambassadors kind of touch on some highlights of the 4-H program. They're here to represent that program. So I think first and foremost, we've added about 2.5 positions that were funded out of the campus budget. These were some positions. One of the positions was a vacant position. One is a position that we're kind of transitioning, and one was a half-time position that we went to full-time. So we added a plant pathologist to help us deal with plant disease issues in our ag industry. That's a full-time position. We added basically, we transferred a family support position that used to be housed in La Paz County. We brought that person down here, and now their focus is going to be for Yuma County. So that's what we call the FCHS. It's Family Consumer Health Sciences. I just call it the Family Support Program. So she does like nutrition, early childhood development, things like that. So we'll be seeing a lot more programming in that area in Yuma County in this coming year. The other position was at the halftime, we increased our ag education position. It was a halftime position. That's Tracy Waters, and she goes into the classroom and gives ag presentations to kids K through 12. The demand for it was phenomenal, and she was just overwhelmed. So we increased her position from a half-time to a full-time position to accommodate demand. So those are the positions, and I'm not going to go through all of this. Please, at your leisure, take a look at this. I think there was a lot of good things. We've done a lot of amazing things over the year, but these guys can do a lot better job of. These are shining examples of our 4-H program. These are the ambassadors, some of our ambassadors to the 4-H program. I'm going to let them introduce themselves and give you a few highlights of the 4-H program.
Thank you.
But again, thank you. We appreciate your support in helping us do what we can.
Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for giving us just a minute to let you know some of our 4-H highlights. My name is Sydney Parrott, and I go to Cibola High School, and I am, as Russ Engel said, a Yuma County 4-H ambassador. In 2018, we had 914 members enrolled who performed 46,886 hours of community service throughout the community. We are also fortunate to have enough to have more than 300 volunteers who give their time, talents, expertise, and finances to support the program. Our SWAG program, Southwest Ag for Kids, has provided hands-on agriculturally based education programming to 5,086 students from kindergartners to 6th graders. Their topics have included watermelon, turkeys, food safety, and cotton.
Hi, I'm Taylor McNeese, a junior from Cibola High School. Last summer, 33 youth and 8 counselors participated in summer camps at Mingus Mountain in the summer of 2018. Our camp counselors met for months in advance to plan this camp, with one of our team members becoming a certified lifeguard to ensure our campers could utilize the lake as much as possible. 9 representatives from Yuma County traveled to Washington, D.C. to learn about our government and our nation's history. I'm fortunate enough to be selected to attend this summer, and I'm very excited for this opportunity.
Hi, I'm Danielle Monroe. I'm a junior at Gila Ridge, and this past year we collaborated with the Arizona Western College Welding Department to provide a workshop for 25 4-H members and their parents where they got to experience a welding simulator, blacksmithing, welding robot, jewelry making, and metalsmithing. We also hosted our annual U of A Day at the fair, which promoted the university with special guests of Wilbur and Wilma, the mascots. Something that we are really proud of this year is the growing popularity of the program Special Kind of Showman. It's a program where young people with exceptionalities got the chance to show animals.
Hi, I'm Laura Hunt, and I'm a senior at Gila Ridge High School. And one thing that ambassadors are involved in is school visits. So this year we did the Ag in the Classroom partnership with the Arizona Farm Bureau, and it has been delivered to 4,688 students that include 9 elementary schools and 41 classrooms. All of the Ag in the Classroom lessons are delivered by the ambassador team. School enrichment program also worked with 21 classrooms from the Desert Mesa, Roosevelt, Alice Burn, Sunrise, and Palmcroft to be able to participate in the fair by exhibiting projects that they made. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Russ, you back up.
That's all we have, so unless you have any questions, thank you.
The board have any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
That was a very
Thank you.
impressive list of accomplishments.
Yes, it was.
That was.
Next, we have compensation benefits. Felicia, the Human Resource Director, is available with the presentation.
Here comes the fun part.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Alicia Frauster, Human Resource Director. Would like to be able to go over with you the compensation benefits component for our recommended budget. Each year we bring to you information that we receive from the various different departments or the elected offices. This year we will have a conversation about the reclassifications, both from the county and the judicial merit system, our on-call duty pay, the paid time off, and vacation buyback. We'll also have discussion on employee benefits, the Loan Repayment Assistance Program, otherwise known as LRAP, and our tuition reimbursement program to talk about the progress that we've made there. First thing we want to be able to look at is each year through our reclassifications, our employees complete their annual performance review, and during that review, and discussion with their agency head, they've identified that that employee has performed duties above and beyond the scope of their current job position that will meet the alignment of the structure and organization within the office. And so we look at the criteria that is submitted each year in December, and we study it from a human resources perspective from the months of January and February, and then bring the recommendations to the county administrator on the 1st of March, and then present it to the board at this time in May. And then upon the decision at that point, it would then be effective for that employee or employees effective the first full pay period in July. So this year we had 45 requests that were submitted to Human Resources for FY 2019-20. Now of those 45 requests, 39 of the requests were recommended to the county administrator. And as you'll see, of the 39, they were identified. We had 2 large departments that we identified a year prior that were part of a market study. And through that market study, we identified that there were some positions that were performing different duties outside their current structure. And so what we asked that department to do is we first addressed the market study last year, and then we asked that department to please continuously work with the employees and then be able to submit their information part of a reclassification because they have been performing those duties well, in essence, way over more than a year and a half. And so that was for the library as well as county attorney's office. And we also identified that with the treasurer's office. So from that, you'll see that we had 38 for county departments, and 1 was recommended from the Superior Court for the judicial merit team. 51,836,000 is to the general fund, 65,570 to the library district, and 12,454 to the jail district, 15,000 to our special revenue, totaling of 144,910. Our on-call duty pay, it has been established for various different departments, specifically designed to help with the health district, facilities management, public fiduciary, public works, ITS, as well as the sheriff's office. Currently, our rate as of last year increased from 62.5 to $1 per hour for non-exempt staff. And we currently have a budget amount of $3,000. That is in excess of. So the department works within their on-call, within their current line items that they have for their personnel. If they were to exceed that amount, then that's where those various different departments or offices reach out to budget, and then funding comes from that specific line item.
I have a question.
Question?
Going to the last slide where the reclassification requests are made.
Yes.
Do the individual employees know that they've been recommended for a reclass?
Yes. Chairman Reyes and Supervisor McLeod, all of our employees who are part of a reclassification process, they are actually a part of the process. The agency head as well as human resources staff meet with the employee and their agency head through the whole process. They receive an analysis form, they give us feedback, we study it, we engage with them, and at this point, that employee is aware that the information is being presented to the board today. Based on the information that's gathered from here, we then let them know that the information would then be reflective in the tentative budget that would occur on the 3rd, and then we continue to update them until the actual adoption of the budget. So that employee has been walked through the whole process.
I asked because it would appear we would have possibly 7 employees who are unhappy today.
Yeah. 6.
So the other individuals that you see that the number has reduced, it's because those individuals, the positions that we were submitted for reclass, the individual either left, so they acquired employment elsewhere, or they were promoted to another position, so that position did not get reclassified. Or we also identified the employee themselves said, I have not been performing other duties outside than what I have been made aware of. So that employee said, no, I don't need to be reclassified. So we had one employee that actually said, I'm not performing any duties beyond what has been asked of me.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So we don't have any
We don't have any that I'm aware of at this present time of any other unhappy employees.
Thank you.
You're
That's
very
pretty
welcome.
bad. You need to have a couple of unhappy
You
people.
gotta have unhappy employees. Come
Right.
on. Push them
It's
hard.
not working.
That's a totally different time.
Yeah, well.
So the next topic of conversation is our PTO buyback, otherwise known as well for the courts, would be vacation buyback program. I know that it has been addressed each year. We wanted to make sure that during the budget process that it is part of the compensation conversation. It is determined by the Board of Supervisors through the budget process if they will fund any particular employee sale of their vacation or their PTO at the end of whatever time that is decided by the Board of Supervisors. So it is funded on fiscal year contingent upon board approval. Employee participation is completely voluntary. And the employee, in accordance to our current rules, may sell up to 40 hours of PTO or vacation time. That the eligibility requirements is the individual has to have been working for the county for over 12 months prior to December 1st. They have to receive a meets or better on the performance evaluation. They would have also have had to already utilize 40 hours. That doesn't mean 40 hours one whole week. They could have utilized 8 hours here, but by the time December 31st of this year would end, they would have had to accumulate up to 40 hours of PTO or vacation time. As well as they need to retain a balance of 80 hours available to them because of anything that could occur for that individual. Now, the last time that we funded the PTO vacation buyback was in FY 17-18. Our employees received the amount of up to from 5 to 20 hours, and this was the actual total. You'll see what we projected from the special revenue and then the flood district, and it's broken down for you, and then the actual amount that we actually paid out. So we didn't have as many participants that we actually anticipated that would want to submit for the PTO or vacation buyback. So I wanted to be able to provide that information to you with regards to this program. So it's something else for you to all to be able to consider. Our employee benefits for our LRAP program, this tool is really a retention tool for our attorneys. Excuse me? Yes.
On vacation, what is the requirement for time off that an employee must take during the year?
They need to take at least 40 hours, 1 week. So
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily
You have
have
a
to be
minimum.
one whole week
Right.
consecutively. It could be broken up.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. So we currently have 12 participating attorneys representing the Office of County Attorney, Public Defender, and Legal Defender. They receive $1,500 per quarter. Currently, our estimated cost for FY 18-19, our expenditure will be roughly about $46,900. And we currently budget at least $75,000 in that program, but we definitely have had several new employees that have who have onboarded with us. And so at this time, many of them may not be eligible because they have had to complete a whole year with the county in order for them to actually participate in this program. And then our tuition reimbursement program, we budgeted in FY 18-19, $50,000. We have 23 participants. Year to date, we are expecting to expend $22,657. We actually can definitely say that this has been rewarding. We have one employee who had achieved her master's degree, and I have already received approval. I can say her name. That is Lisa Mendez, who is our current deputy library director. And we currently have other bachelor's and associate's degree program participants who are in progress at this time. So we always try to recognize them, and we actually ask them for their approval to be able to say their name out on this important day. So with that.
Any questions?
Questions?
Any questions? No?
All of that's in the budget, I assume.
Oh, that's in the budget.
Yeah. No, there's an exception.
Oh, sorry. With the exception of the PTO and vacation buyback. This is where we present the information to you.
So the
It
budget
has
we were
not been-
given last week, that's not in there?
No, because it's up to the board as to whether you're going to do it each fiscal year.
Mhm.
And depending on how much you want to authorize, it would change the amount. So 2 years ago, you authorized up at least a minimum of 5 and up to 20 hours. You can actually authorize up to 40 hours if you would like to. So depending on what the board's interest is, you can either do nothing, as we did this year. We didn't include a PTO buyback program at all this year. So next year, it's not included. It's really just the discretion of the board as to whether you want to add that and it would need to be added to you need to appropriate money, and it need to be
Can we
find a
get a
funding
range?
source for it, and then also put it in the tentative
Can you put
budget.
it back? Get a range. Whoa,
Yeah,
it's a lot.
it's a big number. That's why I asked. I didn't remember seeing it mentioned, so.
Well, put it in
So
as
the
a line
budget team
item.
is not recommending it, I take it. Right? Otherwise it would have been in the,
Right, the budget is balanced without this in it, so you would need to find another, either reduce other expenditures or find additional revenues to offset the expense.
Put it in as our first item for discussion at the end. Let's start with that. Let's just, it gives us an opportunity to take a look at, the interactive, program that you're putting up. Are you putting that up some particular point in time? Okay, we'll begin with this one.
well, let's see.
This is why you're not happy now. You made us unhappy. See, you're too happy, we're not. Now you put us in pressure.
I had a question.
That's good, it's getting old. We'll move. Yeah.
I'm
When he
not the only
remembers,
one.
before the end of the meeting, we'll ask you a question. No, that's it, just,
Oh, I remember.
he remembered.
What is our policy for vacation when an individual separates employment? If, in both cases, termination and voluntary or retirement, how much
Vacation time
vacation
do
can they
they get?
accrue, and do we owe it to them at their full rate of pay? How does that
So
work?
we don't even call it vacation anymore, we call it PTO,
PTO, right.
Because, it's not vacation, it's everything included, including sick leave, which we used to call sick leave, and
Yeah.
comp time, whatever, if we had any.
We
So-
will take it.
PTO, how much
Used to
PTO
be
can a person
400.
roll over? It used to be 400.
Chairman Reyes and Supervisor McLeod. So for the county, we call it PTO, paid time off. The courts still call it vacation, and they have their sick bank. So for the county, we have 400 PTO paid time off that's accrued for any employee that was hired after October 1st of 2017. That's when we made the change. So anyone after October 1st, you will be accruing anything above that, but your maximum payout will be 280 hours of PTO. So we still have grandfathered employees before then. So if I was to leave, terminate it, retired, resign, and I'm before October of 2017, then I have a max payout of 400 PTO hours. If anything after that, whether I've once again resigned, separated, or retired, then my max would be 280 hours.
Is that at the full rate of pay?
That is at their full rate of pay.
That's why we made the adjustment.
Yes.
I thought I remembered something about that.
All right,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
any other questions? No? Thank you, Felicia.
Next, we have county administration. Susan Thorpe, county administrator, is available for any questions. Department pages are on page 65, staffing on page 69.
Hey, Susan. You happy? We're happy. That's it, right? We're moving on. No, I'm just kidding. It's anyone here from the emergency management, risk management, and communications that wants to address the board. If if your budget's fine and you think it's fine, then it's fine with us. But we're giving you a chance to say it now or hold your peace forever and ever. No, it works out well when it works out this way.
Giving them a chance to shoot themselves in the
That's
foot.
right. Yeah. We always give those opportunities up. All right, so we're moving on to the board of supervisors. Is there anything in
Yes,
there that we need
next
to
we have
discuss?
the Board of Supervisors. Susan Thorpe, county administrator, is available for questions. Department pages begin on page 53, staffing on page 54.
Is the board of supervisors happy? We're happy. Go on to the next one. Well, you guys need to be quick about this.
Next, we have the Recorder's
That's
Office,
all,
Robin
if
Paquette,
you
County
give-
Recorders
if you give the
available
Board
for
of
any
Supervisors time,
questions.
they'll come up with some, so move on.
Department pages begin on page 151, staffing on page 153.
She's traveling tomorrow, so you better make sure, everything works out well.
Early, yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the
Congratulations, by
board.
the way.
Thank you very much. Robin Starworth, Pocat, Yuma County Recorder. I'm here to answer any questions or give you any information in regards to the Recorder's Office budget, including the Election Services Office, and Paul Melcher, Interim Elections Director, is also here. Do we have any questions in that regard?
Do you have any questions?
You have room for 2 more people?
That's not a question.
Chairman Reyes, Supervisor McLeod, we are hopefully adjusting a few things with the room we have now, and maybe some modifications, working alongside Mr. Hillen with the Facilities Office to be able to adjust our current needs and accommodate 2 additional staff members. And on that note, we're extremely appreciative of the opportunity to welcome on 2 new staff members. We do find that we find that our assessment in working with Mr. Gunderman on the cost expended for temp employees, overtime, and other resources we spent last year during the election cycle would be best utilized to have our staff increase to support the election administration functions. One of the staff members will be split between the Recorder's Office and, the Voter Registration Division and the Election Services Office.
Okay.
And I believe that's it. We do have another, we did have one request in regard to support and maintenance for the ReliaVote equipment we purchased a few years back. The budget team recommended a set aside for a portion of that amount, and we're fine with that. We're hoping to identify some areas this next year that we can find some savings to make sure that that expense is taken care of. It will be an ongoing expense each year. So that's all I have. The only other item you'll see is there is an increase in the fees collected for the Recorder's Office and the Recording Division, and I just want to note that that's due to, it is a significant increase, but that is due to a legislative change presented by the Land and Title Association in the state legislature last year. So if you have any questions, I can answer those, or
Any questions?
otherwise.
What's the full amount on the maintenance for that equipment?
The total amount on the maintenance agreement is $20,000. I'm sorry, it's a little over $19,000 for Pitney Bowes. It's our equipment that we stuff our ballots.
And that's the equipment that we purchased last year?
A couple of years ago.
A couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Which is...
That didn't sound right. You don't stuff your ballots, do you?
What's that?
Yeah,
You said the
Don't even
equipment.
say that.
You're not allowed to say that in public.
Stuffing envelopes.
Stuffing your
With
ballots is
ballots.
not a good problem.
Putting in the material.
Supervisor Porteous, I apologize. It's preparing the ballots for
Good.
distribution.
Very good.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Clean
It's
that.
early, it's Monday.
That's how things get out of hand here pretty quickly.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr.
Any
Chair-
other questions? No.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the set aside for the maintenance for the equipment is in the non-departmental, so it is budgeted.
So it is budgeted, the 20,000?
Yeah, it's a non-departmental. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And good luck.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next item is non-departmental. Lucy?
Next is non-departmental. Susan Thorpe, County Administrator, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 135.
Susan? Is there any highlights that you want to make out of that?
No, just in general, non-departmental is where we place the funding for the outside agencies, as well as the different set-asides that we want to make sure we're covering potential expenses that a department may have, but it's uncertain. For instance, witness fees for the courts or something like that, where we don't want to put it in the department's budget itself because it's an uncertain expense. So we want to control that expense by keeping it in non-departmental and only provide that funding when it's absolutely necessary. So it's a way of saving funds as well.
I have a question on the auto loo tax. Is that fee, that $32 fee, is that reflected in the budget somewhere in the collection? And if that goes away, that line item also has to be adjusted?
Actually, our vehicle license tax is just based on our actual experience plus projected increases. I'm not sure about the $35 fee. That's actually going to impact us on the HERF side. I'll have to ask our budget team.
It doesn't increase or reduce the funding that we get through that process, does it?
To the best of my knowledge, it does not,
HERF.
Mr. Chairman. It's on the HERF side of it's the revenues.
Yeah, it's supposed to cover DPS costs, so I guess it doesn't really filter to the counties at all.
Right. The great impact is going to be at the state level.
All right. And you know what they do when they have shortfall. Anything else on non-departmental? Any questions here? No? Then we move on to Public Works.
Next, we have Public Works with Joshua Scott, Director of Public Works. Department pages begin on page 143, staffing 148.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Josh Scott, Public Works Director. We're happy, sir.
Yeah, you brought your bodyguard with you, though. I mean, you know, that's always not a good sign. He's standing back there glaring at us like, you know, say something.
I want to commend you guys for the job you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, very responsive department.
Yes.
That doesn't mean
It's not
anything.
as if all of them
It's
are.
not going to change your budget. It's just a statement.
We're happy.
General statement. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, guys. If you're happy, we're happy. Thank you. Next item.
Next, we have Development Services. Craig Sellers, Director of Development Services, available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 73, staffing page 77.
See, Craig, you never look happy. You better look happy now.
I am happy. I mean, I look it, but I am happy.
You're happy with your budget? You're okay? All right. Any questions from the board? No, he's happy. We're happy. Thank you, Craig. Next item is, sorry.
Next, we have Facilities Management. David, Facilities Management Director, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 83, staffing page 86.
Happy to hear my name and not be called Josh Scott.
He left with his bodyguard, so you're unprotected.
Yeah, I don't have mine today. Chairman Reyes and members of the board, Dave Hillen, Director of Facilities Management, available for any questions. We are doubly happy, I think, this year because I just want to say a thank you to our human resources team who have been very patient and helpful with me in restructuring our department so that we can better serve county members. And it's been a long process. There's been a lot of the whole reallocation process going from point A to point B by way of C, D, and E, and so on and so forth. But I really like our structure that we're coming up with. We have a new division, facility or fire and what is it called? Fire and security systems, which has been existent. Felicia talked a little bit about reclassification and whatnot, employees doing things outside their job description, and we're getting that more in line, and I'm very excited about that. And we have people are very happy with their salary and their benefits in these new positions, so that's great. On top of that, of course, as you all know, the cost of materials and supplies and services keeps going up, and the budget review team has been very helpful with us and helping us to meet our needs, so we're happy.
I don't want to make light of this happiness that is, because it takes a lot of work to get to this point. And I know that a lot of you are leaving before I get to say those words at the end, but it takes a lot of work from the budget review team, and it takes a lot of work from the departments to get to this point. And I know that it sounds very lighthearted, and it just seems to be taking place, really quick and really fast, but it took a long time to achieve this. And I want to say that with everybody present, because they may take this the wrong way. This isn't really easy, and it isn't really fast. This is the end of that. And to me, not to be able to say that, it would be a disservice to the work that you have all done to get to this point. There's a lot of work involved in getting to this point.
And some of the restructuring I've been talking about has started when I started here 2.5 years ago, so it was a long process.
No, it takes time. It takes time to get to this stage. Well, thank you. Any questions now?
Didn't we have an HVAC person last year?
We added one, yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes,
Okay.
and we
And how's that
were,
worked out?
we're working with that team, satisfied with it, but thinking ahead at some point in time. We had put in requests, I think, for an HVAC technician and a mechanic. We were able to get the technician this last year. So my eventual vision is to have two teams of mechanic and technicians working together. The supervisor is spending more time probably in the field than I'd like him to, but we're good for now. That'll be a future request.
Any other questions? No? Thank you.
Next, we have County Attorney. John Smith, County Attorney, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 45, staffing page 47.
John?
We're happy with this recommendation, but I can answer any questions you may have.
That's the shortest presentation by an attorney I've ever heard.
I do have a PowerPoint.
Yeah, no, wait, don't mess it up now. You did well. Any questions from the, no questions to the attorney because this could mess it up. This is one of those situations, better let
You have two more sets coming after me.
I know. Right, if you're happy, we're happy. Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Constable 1.
And 2.
Department pages begin page 59, staffing page 60.
Good morning. My name is Art Grenillas. I'm the Chief Deputy Constable. I'm representing Constable John Nozar, Precinct 1. We are happy.
Because if we weren't, we'd be concerned. Thank you. Any questions?
I do want to just say we do thank you, Chairman, and the board and the BRT. Thank you for your diligence in preparing this. And again, we are very, very satisfied.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
No.
Oh, thank you.
Next one.
Next would be Constable number 2. I don't see him.
No, it's okay.
So
You
we're
must
going to
be
move
happy,
on to
otherwise
School
you'd be here
Superintendent. Tom Tyree is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 157, staffing 158.
We're honored, to have the presence of the, school superintendent here.
It's my pleasure to be here, Chairman Reyes and members of the board. Once again, our office and staff are putting forward, I guess, what we'd call a continuation budget, which is to say that we haven't asked for any additional resources or revenues, and we're happy to be able to do that.
Any questions for the school superintendent, Tom? Tyree? No? Thank you, Mr. Tyree. I know this was a brief, visit, but you should do this more often.
Okay, my pleasure.
Next, we have Human Resources. Felicia Frosto, Director of Human Resources, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 109, staffing 111.
I hope you learned from the preceding presentations.
Yes, I did. So I'm very happy. Human Resources were extremely happy, and we once again are appreciative to the budget review team and all the other agencies that we work with. Any questions?
Any questions? No, thank you, Felicia. We were happy.
Next, we have
Seem to
Public
be.
Defender's Office. Michael Breeze, Public Defender, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 139, staffing
He's coming.
141.
You're it. No movie reviews for you today. You need to focus on the budget.
Timing is perfect. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, just like to indicate that we are really grateful for the review that the budget review team engaged in. And while we didn't get all of our requests, I think we'll be able to get through another year with the items that were approved. I'd like to just point out that we've been consistent this year again with respect to the fact that we're maintaining representation in majority of the high-end felonies, and including our contract counsel, the supermajority of the cases at the juvenile courts. So I'd like to make myself available for any questions if the board has any.
Any questions? Any questions? No, we have no questions. Thank you. We're always concerned when we have to ask questions from our attorney, so we're keeping it, low key.
I'm pretty concerned too. Thank you.
Thanks for the great work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Next, we have Legal Defender's Office. Terry Capozzi, Legal Defenders, available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 127, staffing 128.
Morning, Chairman.
Good morning.
Board members, Terry Capozzi, Legal Defender. I want to say first and foremost, I'm happy with our budget. The only other thing I would like to say is how thrilled I am with the enterprise risk management system and process that we have in the county that prepares us for the BRT and gives us what we need to give you to get what we need. So hats off to that process. And any questions?
Any questions? Anyone? No? Thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. When we don't know anything about it or don't read in the paper, that's good.
Well, we do our best for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Information Technology Services. Cliff Summers, Chief Information Officer, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on 113, staffing 115.
You're not asking us to change the password today, are you?
Actually, that's what I'm
That's
here
always,
for.
That's always the first thing we get.
We have to change
Your
our
password is
passwords.
expiring
Password
in
needs
2
to
minutes.
No, actually, Cliff Summers, Chief Information Officer, Yuma County ITS. Good morning, Supervisor, Chairman Reyes, and board members. ITS is happy with their budget, with our budget. We appreciate what the BRT has done, and being able to have our voices heard when there's some kind of need for any kind of additional monies, which we didn't need this year. But like I always say, it's that iceberg thing. Sometimes it's what's at the bottom is bigger than what's at the top.
All right. Well, thank you. We're somewhat happy with everything in technology side. Any questions? No.
You should be very happy with us.
We're happy until we have to change the password. Yeah, that's right. We're happy because we have to change the password. We can
The
get in.
security is the
it is.
big thing,
Thank you,
so
Supervisor
thank you for
Pankratz.
increasing
Exactly,
that
the
security.
You should have used the opportunity to say that the weakest link in a, safe system is the supervisor.
No, that is not true. The supervisors are very up to being a strong link in the chain.
Thank you for saying that, but you can step back now. You can step back now. You're in a winning. You're in a winning track now. You step back. Thank you very much.
Budget set.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Housing. Jesus Roldan, Interim Housing Director, is available for questions. Department pages begin on 105, staffing 106.
Good morning, Chairman Reyes and members of the board. We'll be, I think the only things that we'll be doing this year, we're asking is to upgrade is, it was $30,000 for repairs and maintenance for vacated units. We have a lot of units that are, that were built in 1965 that they need a lot of repairs, and some of them, the underground is bad. It was built with cast iron, which now is not even used anymore, and we have a lot of units that need to be turned out, and especially with the REAC inspection coming up, we need to have those units in place.
Can the department, look, I know it's a common practice in cities and towns to use CDBG funds to solve some of those problems. I wonder whether it isn't time for the county to start looking at doing some of the repairs that are needed for that, specifically for those housing units that need that. And it may be a wise idea, instead of always looking for the outside agencies to come in and ask for those funds, to have to have an agency like the Yuma County Housing Department come in and say, look, we need to rehab 10 units this year, and use some of that money to do that. Because it seems to me, either you get it from HUD, it's going to be tough to get it from us. So either you get it from HUD or you get it through some other, way of funding it. CDBG seems to me a logical step for us to start solving some of those problems. I mean, we go ahead and solve problems for someone else, or for other entities. It'd be wise to, I think it'd be wise to start looking at doing some of those repairs before they mount into a situation where they become a crisis.
Correct, yes. And as you know, all this money will be coming from our HUD funds, which is the low rent and also the CFP programs. So
just to clarify, so the $30,000 is included in the budget?
yeah, it's included in the budget.
And I understood that. It's just that I think what's coming up is some major repair bills that, you may struggle to get, HUD to be willing to do a lot of the rehab work that you may need. It may take a long time to get it done. Well, you should start looking at that avenue as a possibility to get some of these issues resolved.
I'll be setting up a meeting with
Especially
NAS.
replacing some of those older air conditioning units, maybe using some solar in the apartments, those kind of things, replacing old plumbing, those things are really expensive. Once you open up an old apartment, you don't know what you're going to find in there.
Yeah, especially built in 1965.
But your budget is fine, it's set, it's balanced. We do have an issue with the salary increases because they have to be approved by HUD. Is that correct?
No, what I'd like to do is have the BRT meet with Jesus and Elizabeth in housing to really dig into the numbers, because at this point, it looks like there's not sufficient funding for the entire housing department to get a salary increase that's planned for the rest of the organization. So I want to just be sure that there's not funding there. If there's funding there, I want to be able to give that salary increase, but at this point, I don't want to commit until we know what those numbers are and if we can actually afford it. So at this point, it's not included. So between now and the tentative budget, I'd like to work with housing to see whether that's possible or not.
There is some leeway in your HUD budgets. I mean, small leeway, but there's a percentage that you can sort of, I wouldn't call it tinker with, but you can use as long as they approve of it. So, you know.
Well, it's just to explain a little more, it's just one of the funded program, which is a grant program. They gave us the same money as last year. You know, even though we asked for about $20,000 more, we still got the same as last year. So, you know, that's the grant that, you know, this cannot afford the raise. So.
Okay, all right. Well, you're not going to say you're happy, but happy as much as we can be.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No questions? Thank you, Mr. Roldan.
Next, we have Health District, Diana Gomez, Public Health Services District Director is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 95, staffing page 98.
Good morning, Chairman
Morning.
Reyes, members of the board. We work with the budget review team. We're happy with the recommendations, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
First of all, let me make a comment. We're happy with the health department. You guys have done an excellent job of dealing with a lot of crises that could have gotten a lot worse if it wasn't because you were in the preventive side as opposed to be in the reaction side. And that really, I mean, I personally, I've seen the department grow throughout the years, but you guys have taken that to another level. I personally appreciate that.
I agree, totally.
Okay, all right, thank you. If you're happy, we're happy.
Happy.
Excellent, thank you.
Next, we have Financial Services and Improvement Districts. Gil Villegas, Chief Financial Officer, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 91, staffing page 94.
You better be happy.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Gil Villegas, Finance Department. In regards to the Finance Department, this year we had an opportunity to rearrange some of the line items. I wanted to have a little bit more money on training. It's very important for us, especially with all the changes that are happening right now in the accounting world. So yes, we are very happy with the with the line items that we have.
Should have brought that up. That delays the final.
So what
You guys are getting too much training.
What I heard him say was we did a great job of packing our budget.
Yeah, that's right. You pack. We'll get you at the end. This is not, the point. This is the Financial Services Improvement District.
Well, I'm glad you're focusing on training.
I am
It's
too.
very important.
Yeah, the whole budget thing it's an effort, a team effort, so.
Time it well. Time it well.
Now, in regards to the improvement district, they usually prepare a little presentation just to give you a summary, what's the line items for all the improvement districts, what's what we're gonna have for the future fiscal year. And before I do that, I would like to introduce, well, everybody knows Rachel Starworth, our improvement district coordinator, and
She's
Elsa
hiding.
Garcia. She's our accountant for improvement districts.
How come they're separate?
Well, they should be sitting over
They should be
here,
sitting
but
together
they're a
up
little
here on
shy
the
this
side.
morning.
Don't they get along well or what? What's going on?
Okay, if I know how to work this.
Ooh, we're gonna get a presentation.
It would be a short and sweet presentation from the accountant. There should be two handouts given to you this morning. One, it's one page only, and it has to do with the level of services that we're going to be providing to those districts needing additional attention. So we need to increase their service, their fee, because we're going to be providing more services to them. And the second one is 5 pages. Those are a summary for each of the individual improvement districts that we have in Yuma County. Again, this is the improvement districts that we service. They are being established by statute. And for fiscal year 2020, we're going to have 160 active districts. 75 of them general purposes, which means they go from irrigation, street light, a combination, or if we're maintenance a basin or something, that's your general purposes improvement districts. 47 street lights and 38 irrigations district. We picked 3 new funds this fiscal year. Mr. Chairman.
What happens when cities annex the areas where the improvement districts are? Do they then take over the management? Or at least the setting of rates?
They should take care of the services being provided. However, the district needs to be dissolved by the Board of Supervisors.
Do you want to help me on this one as well, Rachel, please?
Because there's a lot of annexation talk going on, and I wonder, because I look at everything that we see here seems to be in an unincorporated area of the county, because that's the ones we manage. I mean, this is not the end of all improvement districts. This is just the districts that we have a hand in managing. But I see districts like the Orange Grove district, those districts that may now come into the jurisdiction of the city of Somerton. I hear all these annexation talks in the foothill. And, the question is, what happens to those districts once they're within, city of Yuma or any other city's jurisdiction?
I understand. Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Rachel Stallworth. Those districts that are annexed will become the main priority of the city of Yuma or Somerton, whoever annexes them. And they, as Gil explained, they would be dissolved by this board. We'd bring it before you and dissolve that district because the purpose for which they were originally intended goes away and it becomes the responsibility of that municipality at that time.
And the money in the account?
That would be returned to the individual property owners.
If
there's a substantial amount,
right.
yeah. If it's not, and it can be brought before you, it can also be absorbed by the general fund.
We don't want to do that. But
Depending on the
just
amount.
depends,
sure.
if it's
Sometimes it takes too
minimal.
much money to do that.
Yes.
To return the money.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we do have a revolving fund who is supposed to help with the establishment of these districts. If a situation like that is to happen, our recommendation would be to put it back to the revolving fund so we can help continue with the process.
I'm surprised.
Send the money back.
All right.
So 160 active districts that we have right now. We have 3 special assessment districts. That's for debt services, 2 capital improvements, and 1 revolving fund, like I said. This is the administration cost allocation. This is a summary of the page that I have provided to you as a handout. Which ones are the districts? How much is the general fund charging? It's only $3.60 per parcel. And then we have the revolving fund is the one that charges a little extra because once again, Rachel and her team, they're going to be spending a lot of time with those improvement districts. And a detailed list is in that handout that I gave.
Excuse me, what is the service level? Is that how involved we are with managing it? You should stay up here, Rachel.
And Gil, does the second figure include the first?
Yeah. I don't even know what he's talking about.
In addition.
All right. The question is, what is the difference in service levels? Why is there a 0 to 5 service level?
Chairman Reyes, normally during the month, the different service levels that we put together is determined by how many times we have to interact with those, if it's inspections within retention basins, different improvement districts, or if there are different, if we're working with them on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, or even twice a week. So it's all, so the one like number 5, that's probably minimum of 2 to 3 times a week that we're working with that district. If it's a 4, we're working with them a minimum of 1 time a week, sometimes in the evenings.
So it is a service level. The
is.
higher the number, the more attention you have to pay to that district.
That is correct.
I suppose the 128 are just collecting the money, right? And paying for the service, right?
It's a regular fee that goes to the finance department, yes.
Just out of curiosity, Sharon, what's number 1? The number 5 service. You've only got 1 there. Which one is that?
Bottom one.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Simmons, in the list that I gave you, there's only 1, I believe it's Mesa del Sol towards the bottom.
Yes.
Yeah, that takes a lot of servicing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got
Yeah, you got to do a lot of stuff. Yeah, those are the ones we want to have the cities take over.
They're all in your district, Darren.
Don't remind me.
In regards to the appropriations, I'm sorry, you have a question?
I have a question. So the 128 or the 160, that's all the ones that are within the county?
Yes.
Within the unincorporated area.
Unincorporated area. not including the city.
No, the cities come in a different.
So the
report.
list here
Just for us.
is just for us?
The
It's just for
list
the county?
is only what the county is responsible for.
Because I see some that,
It should be in the city, no.
yeah.
That's why I asked the question, because I see some of them, I don't know what the process is, but some of them seem to be like already within some.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Porter, perhaps are in the process of being eliminated or annexed or.
Or maybe the cities don't know what they're supposed to do.
Who takes care of that, Gil? So we get an annexation, does Development Services report to you that's within a district?
It's a combination of effort between the assessor's office and the improvement district coordinator. They are the ones who set things in motion, and if it needs to be dissolved by the board, they will bring it up to the board.
All right. Well, again, with all the annexation talk going on right now, that may be a notice saying, you know, when you annex, if you annex, you know, you need to let us know what we need to do next. Would probably be an order, because I think that what happens is, I don't know if maybe the city of Yuma is sophisticated enough to understand what's going on, but I mean, maybe we need to notice the city of Somerton and Welton, if they're annexing any areas, you know, that part of the annexation process is dealing with the improvement districts that are within those areas that are being annexed, so that we can clear that out.
Well, I can see that would be triggered at the assessor's office.
Well, they're very sophisticated because they're not telling us. So,
Well, still having to do it.
Keep doing it, yeah. Why would I tell you? If you're still paying for it, well.
This is definitely.
I think it's something that the county should be more on top of it, because we get the paperwork from when they're gonna annex, or some of them, if we don't know that they're really within the paperwork.
Let me tell you
That's implying
something.
that
Yeah,
there's a
that's
problem.
implying, you know, that is a discussion we've been having throughout the years, where we get to a point now that every improvement district that we manage has to be on the positive side. And that's, you know, that's been a process over the years. So even if the cities don't do anything, we're not losing money. We're charging these districts enough to cover the cost of managing them. It's just that when they get to level 5, we need to give them to the city.
Mr. Chairman, and that's the key word, we're just trying to recuperate the expense.
Yeah, we recuperate the expense.
That the general fund is doing.
And that's why we're talking about, you know, moving some funds into the revolving fund, because we're talking about a little bit of excess funds and where they go. And we're talking very little most of the time, and, you know, not enough to trigger us having to return it and mailing and finding out and spending so much time on returning 50 cents or $1 just doesn't make any sense. And that's why we have this situation that takes care of that. Correct?
Correct.
Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a comment. Supervisor Portes made the comment, the county should be more on top of it. Implies that there's a problem, and I don't think there is.
there's a problem.
I'm not saying that it's a problem, but what I'm
Well,
saying
you told
is.
them to be more on top of it.
Well, yeah, because if a
There
city is not taking care of the retention basin, and the county is, when it belongs to the city.
But do you have one that is in that?
I do. I have about 5.
Is there, that are in there? That are in the
Yes.
city limits?
Yeah, they're in my district, yes.
You know, you need to take a
I've
look at
counted
something.
5 of them.
Let me
Find out.
let me just say something. This may be a situation where you have improvement districts that straddle the line. In other words, you may have an improvement district that is actually part within the city and part outside the city.
Meadowbrook.
Those districts need to be taken a look at. Look, I asked the question because I see some districts that may be already inside some of the cities. So let's look at that, review it. The assessor should be able to tell us, look, this has been annexed, and let's look and see if we can transfer that responsibility to the cities who should have it, and then, you know, get back to us. Right now, what you presented to us is a budget that includes every one of those that hasn't been noticed as being within the city limits, and we'll continue managing that wisely and within budget for as long as we need to. We just don't want to go, you know, beyond many months or many years beyond the need to.
Yes,
manage
Mr. Chairman, a process needs to be in place, and we can review that process and make sure that everything goes accordingly, how they're supposed.
See, this is how you get in trouble, right? You give too much information and.
I thought it
But
was.
not
summarized
trouble,
there.
not in trouble. It's just knowledge. And knowledge is dangerous.
Journal purposes.
Hold on,
Just one more question. On the Orange Grove, and Mobile and Orange Grove Mobile number 5, is that
I think it's an Orange Grove area.
Orange Grove area?
Yeah. Everything that's Orange Grove, it's Orange Grove area.
Yeah. Nassau County.
I don't know if the city of Somerton
No,
has
that's
finished their
not,
annexation.
that hasn't, that's within the county.
Yeah, they don't want it. Costs
Well,
too much to bring it up.
I'm just, so there is a district there.
Yes, there is.
And I thought.
For lighting.
For lighting.
A couple of them have retention basement, yeah.
So we are taking care of that.
So we are taking care of it. That'd be another question for later on, because I'm confused when, on the district side, that when I asked the question if we ever form an improvement district in that area, the answer was no.
Because we don't form them. They get formed when the subdivision, yes.
So the lighting,
Yeah.
was it
But,
formed?
yeah. Well, the question should have been, is there already an improvement district that covers that area? And the answer would have been yes, there's a lighting
Some
district.
sections, that is
Yeah,
correct.
we normally don't form improvement districts.
Yeah, no,
They're
know.
formed by the residents themselves.
But.
There is one, there's an existing one.
Yeah, so.
We do assist the property owners in forming them as they
Yeah,
request it.
And I
Exactly.
do understand that, yeah.
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Rachel?
Yes, ma'am.
I found, in this list, I found 5, 6 that are in the city.
Maybe.
Oh, they're in my
Maybe.
district,
They may
so-
be in the
and they're in the city. So are they in the process of being dissolved? How did that work?
No.
We have not been advised that they have been annexed, and we've talked about this too, that we want to make sure that the city is providing us with the paperwork. And we have found that from time to time, they have forgotten to provide us with that paperwork very conveniently. So.
They're sophisticated enough.
Yes. So we've had to go back and work with them to make sure that those things get taken care of.
Well, Meadowbrook's been in the city for a long time. And it's on this
Exactly, yes.
list.
And we can work with you. Others
I-
that
yes,
know.
you and I need to sit
Make
down.
it
I can
so
tell
that
you
we
a whole
know.
bunch.
Yes.
I just
We'll
looked
go
that
over
up.
those.
Did you mark them?
I can mark them right now.
All right, okay, I think we discussed this plenty. You know, what needs to be done is a review of of the boundaries and see if some of these districts really need to be turned over to the proper jurisdiction. Okay?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just on a side note, last year, the assessors, the treasurers, Rachel and myself, we started talking about this improvement district situation, when new ones come aboard, when the ones that we need to retire, what's the process and all that. So a process needs to be set, I agree.
All right. Okay, any more
And
questions, comments?
Just a positive comment that I want to say is that, when I got on the board, when I started on the board, and I guess the county hadn't looked at or assessed the services that we were charging less or not enough to cover the expenses. So I'm glad that you're on top of that, that's been going on, but I think the process, like you said, to establish and finding out which ones are not in the county should be, better for you guys, it's less work.
It's
You would think.
You would think, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it's 160 funds that I need to worry about.
Exactly.
So yes, I'm all about it.
When do you notice the entities that they need to have their tax, their rates sent to you? I mean, I'm talking San Luis or Somerton or Welton.
When we set the budget.
Yeah, to set the budget. When do we tell them?
For the ratification of the rates, and I need to get notification from all the entities, that's the third Monday in August.
So
right now, I'm starting the conversations with all the entities that they need to start working with their board so they can prepare the documents, send us the information, and I can prepare that humongous spreadsheet for the board. And
I remember that.
And yes, that will be every entity here in Yuma County.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Oh, yeah, you go. You move.
So fairly quickly, general purposes, improvement district, 75 of them. The total appropriation is pretty much the same. I think it only increased $21,000, and that was mostly due to the 3 new districts that we're assessing. We are very mindful about the carrying forward balances. If there is no need for us to assess an additional money, we always use the fund balance or the fund carry forward balances. Street lights, lighting districts, 47 of them. Total appropriation, $334,000. Only an increase of $600. 9 improvement districts increased more than 10%. It's either because they are new in the system or APS is notifying us that the electricity needs to be up. Irrigation, 38. The appropriation is $208,000, so that includes everything, all the expenditures for each of those districts. $19,000 increase from prior years. So things continue pretty much the way been operating in the past. Special assessments, these are the three districts, El Prado, Gadsden, and BNC Colonial, to borrow funds to do their projects. El Prado, I'm hoping that I can pay that debt off this fiscal year with the assessment, and with the fund balance should be enough to pay that. But I need to work that with legal, make sure that it's okay for us to do that. Gadsden and BNC Colonial, of course, BNC Colonial is the most recent with the most money, $2.2 million still outstanding. The appropriation for current fiscal year is exactly the payments that they need to make for fiscal year 2020. Capital improvements, we actually have one. That is Mesa del Sol, El Prado, who is going to be pursuing some grants. What they're doing over there is a new sewer line. So it's been budgeted. Whether it takes place or not, we're going to put it in the books. And our revolving fund, this is the fund that helps with establishment or the expenditures, the administration of all the improvement districts, is the same appropriation as last fiscal year, so no increase in expenditures. We're very mindful about what goes in. For this year, we have $16,000 in grants that Rachel is going to procure for us. And those are the total service charges and other revenues. And I believe that was the last slide that I have for you.
Fine. All right. Any other questions from the improvement districts? Financial services? No? Thank you.
Next, we have Library District, Lisa Mendez, Deputy Library Director, is available for any questions. Department pages begin on page 129, staffing 133.
Chairman Reyes, supervisors, Lisa Mendez, Deputy Director. We're very happy with our budget. We appreciate the BRT team and especially Human Resources for their assistance.
And you do know we're going to be talking about your long-term finances, right? Okay. Okay. Well, we're satisfied with what's presently in the budget, but we think that we may run into problems in the future if we don't start looking at, the sources of revenue that the district's providing to the collections, the taxes are providing to the district. So we'll be talking about the library district further down the road. Yeah. But you're happy with your budget? Yes. Everything's okay? All right. Any questions for the library district? One last comment. The library district is always near the top of the services that people really like about, about the county. So we appreciate the work you guys do. Yours and the health department are always, pretty high up there. So thank you very much for the work you guys do. Okay.
Yes, I love all the programs you offer down at all the libraries. So thank you.
Right. Anything else? No? If you're happy, we're happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next.
We have public fiduciary. I believe that she had court this morning. She didn't get a chance to make it.
Such a huge budget item, but I'm not sure we can.
We could move her till tomorrow if that's okay. The fiduciary had to be in court at 9:30, so I should probably not finish.
Not done yet? Okay. All right, we'll move this item to tomorrow. Add it to their agenda. So that ends the department budget request, presentations that we have today. We're going to go back and finalize a discussion on the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget and what we have learned so far through this process, which I hope is, we learned a lot, but very little changes, I hope. So it's now up to the board. Do you guys want to, oh, there you go. I was going to ask you, are you going to put up the old interactive budget line item request form?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is the spreadsheet that we presented to you during the presentation of the recommended budget. And this is the last information that it was given to us when we were discussing the items that were to go into recommended budget and also the new items that were brought to your attention.
Are there any new items from the state that we need to take a look at, other than the possible $700,000, 700+ thousand dollars that Access may, challenge may present? Is there anything new that you guys know anything about? And, or are we going to start just by lining out items like the buyback, the PTO buyback, as a possible item for discussion at the end? Because unless we want to discuss it now, I'd say, I'll leave it up to the board. If we get to the end tomorrow, and then, we line item, we see what happens, we give the state budget another extra day to see if they come up with something that, can help alleviate problems. Not that they will do that. It's not gonna happen. So anyway, I'm sure that from the presentation today, we don't really have much more than just that item. And I think we just can put it down below and get to the end of the presentation tomorrow, and then start talking about whether we're willing to take money from someplace else, or what are we willing to do. Is that okay?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're here to the pleasure of the board. If we want to hear all the departments first, then tomorrow will be the best time to discuss the spreadsheet.
That's what I think. You guys?
I'm good with that.
You good? Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
And if everybody's good with that, this is the end of today's presentation. Is there something else?
Did you want to look at the library fund balance today or tomorrow?
Why don't we look at it tomorrow when we, finish up the process? Or maybe we got time today. Just, how does the board feel about that?
Sure.
Today?
Today.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's do it today.
Tomorrow's gonna be a little tough.
Yeah, tomorrow's at the end of the, Look, the library people left. They snuck out.
She's confident you'll make the right decision.
Yeah, right. She doesn't know what she's thinking. All right, well, let's look at the budget, Let's look at the trending for the library district. Yeah, this is where I may have to eat my words, right?
Yeah.
I'm not-
We're good friends.
I think so. I think so myself. We may have to, although next year's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
The election year is always tough.
You make it bigger?
I look good. Put it back in
It's
the
so
sleeve.
small.
Can't see it. Put it back in the sleeve. How do we do that?
Okay, so the other day.
Oh, that's right, 2
Mr.
cents a
Chairman,
year,
and members of
yeah.
the board, Tony
a year.
Struck, the budget director. Last
Yuma.
week, we showed the library fund balance
For 2 years.
with no increases. I want to put up one that has 0 increases, so.
But don't erase this one. Oh, that hurts. And then I want the board to
Takes a
realize
second,
that
so-
when you make a couple of cents improvement, what it actually does to that balance, it really impacts it right away, but,
Yeah,
it
so if you
looks to
look
me
at
like,
no increases, the debt does change. I need to get over it a little bit this way. The debt changes based on the outstanding debt and the assessed value, what do we need to pay off the debt. So that's all built in with the recession coming up in the next few years. And so that's why you'll see the values of the assessed values go down, and that kind of bops around. But as we look at this, this year we're above the fund balance policy, but leaving that alone and just taking the debt service changes, we do fall below the policy starting effective 2021. So there was a couple scenarios that we just kind of looked at to see if you did increases starting today, what you'd need to do over that 10-year time period to try to maintain that 25%
I tell you
fund
what,
balance.
that headline Tuesday has me in a tough spot right there. That newspaper headline has me in a tough spot right there.
And as I said, I built in some
I said it, so.
capital
I said it.
needs for that.
I said it, I take it.
They don't choose the title.
I know. So start next year.
So this scenario, if you increased 2 cents to the rate this year, 2 cents next year, 3 cents the following year, and then you could kind of level it off and actually have some decreases in the out years. This would maintain pretty much the fund balance policy at 25%, just slightly over that.
What about starting next year with 3%, with 3 cents? What does it do?
3 cents?
Yeah, next year.
No,
No, not
next
this
year.
year.
Okay.
Next year.
Okay.
You put a zero,
Zero.
zero there and go to next year and see what happens. You
Next
have
year is
Zero
an-
here, zero here, okay.
Yes.
Just to remind you, next year is an election year.
Ah, well, it doesn't matter. We're gonna have to figure out a way to do something, whether it's an election year or not.
Well, it's a big difference.
Well, it gives you nothing.
Yeah, so no increase this year, 3 cents next year, and then it adds on 3%.
Why don't you increase the 150 to 2 on 2022, 2023? There. See if that brings it back up. Well, that's a little bit. Do
Oh,
go ahead.
that's 20. That's not.
Whoa, whoa, what happened?
20 cents.
Oh, he put 20 cents. This don't scare me.
So I think, Mr. Chairman, I think you have brought this up in the past, is that if you do little increments now and every year, it has a much more positive cumulative impact than waiting and then having a big jump
Look,
in a few
guys,
years.
She came back.
she
Good.
came back. Yeah. Look, I do understand.
Then there was a version we did with no
But
increases.
you have to remember this. This is the reserve budget. This isn't the operational budget. I just
Right,
want
that's
everybody to
correct,
understand.
yeah.
What we're looking at is making sure that the reserve budget is healthy. So we're talking about a $3 million reserve budget. So, I don't want anybody to see this graph and thinking that all of a sudden next year, we're gonna go into a deficit, because we're not. What we're looking at here is how do we stabilize the reserve account over time, the reserve account. So let's not get carried away here. We do need to take a look at it over long range. I did say that, if you make small gradual steps, you're better off in the future. But then I also said that this year we're not increasing, property tax rates. So, that puts me in a tough spot because I really, don't see that at a point that anything needs to be done. I see it next year where you're touching that point. But then I also don't know what is going to happen next year with new construction. I don't know if the evaluations are gonna go up. So, next year the situation could look like this year. It could, so, to me, this is a reserve account. This isn't something that we're looking at, handling because the operation of the library is gonna be impacted. This is, hey, let's stabilize the reserve account, right? I just want to make that point because I'm so reluctant to increase property taxes, having this gentleman next to me busting me in the ear all the time about this, which should be a source of pride for him. But we looked at this year and we said, look, there's nothing in front of us that really necessitates increasing property tax rates, really, to me. And I don't know about the rest of the board, but to me, a tax increase of 1 cent, 2 cent, 3 cent, 4 cents is still a tax increase. You can't be a little bit pregnant. If you increase the tax rate, you increase the tax rate, period, whether it's for 1 cent or 5 cents.
Tony, what does a 1 and 1 and then 2s in the out years look like?
1 cent here.
Yeah, 1 cent there, 2 the next 2.
2 cents here.
Yeah.
Takes it a minute to recalculate.
That's the line I can live with.
Just to make your point, huh?
No, I'm not trying to make any point. Just trying to follow your advice. I mean, if you do a little now.
He's going to get me into that corner. I know.
No, but we still have. How badly did we damage flood control? Can we move another penny from there this year?
Sure. Flood control never spends its money. So you're gonna try to do the balancing act again? Take it from one and put it in the other?
No, not increase.
Wow. That looks.
That's per year.
Yeah, it's current year. So I don't think I have this set up. Change. I think it-
1 cent. They would-
0.24.
0.24.
Right?
I don't think if I change it.
We could do that maybe tomorrow.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. In other words, what he's
Okay.
looking at is a 1 cent increase on the library district moved from the flood control district. That's what he's looking at, so that tax rates remain the same overall. Is that it? Is that what you're thinking?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, we can only do that so many times, but it was successful last year.
At least maybe this year, and then the following year we'll just go at.
No, well, we look at the following year. I mean, it looks to me like when you take an action like this, and let's remember that this 10-year, this 10-year look at things include a recession, include all those factors that really may or may not happen. So, and next year we could be looking at this with a surplus or with a deeper hole, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
All right, so it's just a matter of
So if we
dealing.
just do a little bit, sets us up better down the road.
Hey, again, I've said that before.
So tomorrow we'll bring back some different scenarios for you to consider with library itself as well as flood control. We have a couple of options we
All
might
right,
want to
Doug.
look at.
I'm just gonna stick to my
Good thing we
point.
looked at it today.
Okay, good. It's good that we looked at it today so that we can have something for tomorrow. That's what Supervisor McLeod. All right, anything else? We looked at the library. It's getting better. Anything else? No,
just get a
then it's
degree?
over. The meeting today is
Did you just
over.
get
It's
a degree?
continued for tomorrow,
Yeah?
right? We'll continue it for tomorrow. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you.